I lost my kids, my house, my best friends, and my job in 60 days. The man I cheated with blocked me on day 3. I cheated on my husband of 9 years, and in less than 60 days I lost literally everything I had built since I was 22 years old. My children. My house. My career. My friendships. My reputation. My sense of self. All of it, gone. And the man I blew my entire life up for? He blocked my number 3 days after my husband found out. 3 days. That's how much I was worth to him. That's how much I was worth to myself, apparently. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom. The same twin bed I slept in during high school. There are still glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling from when I was 15. I'm 34 years old. My 2 daughters are 12 miles away in the home I used to live in, and I'm only allowed to see them every other weekend. My mom brings me tea every morning and doesn't say much. She doesn't have to. The look on her face says everything. Disappointment so deep it doesn't even have the energy to be angry anymore. Let me tell you how I got here. Not because I deserve sympathy. I don't. But because maybe, just maybe, some woman reading this will recognize the path she's walking before she reaches the cliff I threw myself off of. My husband, Daniel, was a good man. Not was. Is. He's still a good man. He's just not my man anymore, because I made sure of that. We'd been together since I was 23, married at 25. He coached our daughter's soccer team. He made breakfast on Sundays. He left little notes in my lunch bag like we were still dating. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't the guy who made your heart race at a bar. He was the guy who held your hair back, who showed up at the hospital when your mom had surgery, who quietly handled the bills so you never had to stress. Steady. Reliable. Safe. And I resented him for it. I know how that sounds. Trust me, I know. But somewhere around year 7, I started looking at Daniel and feeling nothing. Not anger, not love. Just nothing. He'd reach for me in bed and I'd roll over. He'd try to plan date nights and I'd say I was tired. He'd ask if something was wrong and I'd snap that everything was fine. I made him feel like he was the problem when the problem was always me. I was bored. That's the truth, as ugly as it is. I was bored, and instead of doing literally anything healthy about it, I let that boredom become a door. His name was Marcus. He worked at a firm that partnered with my company on a project last spring. Tall. Confident. The kind of man who looked at you like you were the only person in the room. The first time we met in a conference room with 8 other people, he found a way to make me laugh 3 times. I remember thinking, when's the last time Daniel made me laugh like that? Which was unfair because Daniel made me laugh all the time. I just stopped paying attention. It started the way it always starts. Innocent. A coffee after a meeting. A text that went a little longer than professional. A joke that had a flirtatious edge I chose not to examine. I told myself it was networking. I told myself I deserved adult conversation that wasn't about soccer practice or grocery lists. I told myself a lot of things because the truth was too ugly to look at directly. The truth was, I liked the attention. I liked feeling wanted in a way that felt electric instead of comfortable. I liked being chosen, even though I'd already been chosen, every single day, by a man who never once gave me a reason to look elsewhere. My best friend Tara saw it before I did. Or maybe she saw it exactly when I did and just had the guts to say it out loud. We were at brunch and I mentioned Marcus for the 3rd time in an hour. She put her mimosa down and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. You need to stop talking to that man. You have a husband. You have kids. I laughed it off. Told her she was being dramatic. Told her it was nothing. She said, it's never nothing when you can't stop talking about it. I should have listened. That was the last real warning I got, and I treated it like a joke. The first time something physical happened was at a work event. An out-of-town conference. Daniel was home with the girls. I told him I was dreading the trip. I'd packed my bag in front of him and kissed him goodbye and told him I'd FaceTime before bed. Then I went to the hotel bar, and Marcus was there, and after 2 drinks I followed him to his room. I won't describe what happened. You don't need those details and honestly, I don't want to relive them. What I will tell you is what I felt afterward, not guilt. Not immediately. I felt alive. I felt like I'd woken up from something. And that terrified me more than the cheating itself because it meant I'd do it again. And I did. 5 more times over the next 2 months. I became a person I didn't recognize. I started lying with a fluency that still scares me. I told Daniel I had late meetings. I told him I was going to Tara's. I told him my phone died when really I'd turned it off so he couldn't track my location. I looked him in the eyes every single night and said I love you while my body still smelled like someone else's cologne. I was living 2 lives, and the worst part was how easy it felt. How natural the deception became. Like I'd been rehearsing for it my whole life. My daughters. God, my daughters. Lily is 8. Harper is 5. During those 2 months, I was physically present but emotionally gone. I'd sit on the couch while they watched cartoons and I'd be texting Marcus under a blanket. Lily asked me once why I was always smiling at my phone. I told her it was a funny video from work. She said, "Can I see?" And I said no so quickly that she flinched. She stopped asking after that. She started going to Daniel when she needed something. Both of them did. Like they could sense that mom had checked out. Kids know. They always know. They might not have the words for it, but they feel the shift in the air. Harper started wetting the bed again. She hadn't done that in over a year. Daniel was worried, wanted to take her to the pediatrician. I told him it was just a phase. I didn't have the bandwidth to worry about it because I was too busy planning my next rendezvous with a man who, I would later find out, was doing the exact same thing with 2 other women. The day everything ended was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my late meeting nights. I told Daniel I wouldn't be home until 9. But the meeting Marcus and I had planned got cancelled because his wife called him. His wife. I didn't mention that part yet, did I? He was married too. I knew. I knew from the beginning. I just filed it away under not my problem because acknowledging it would have forced me to see myself clearly, and I wasn't ready for that mirror. So I came home early. Around 6. I walked through the door with a smile on my face, ready to play the part of devoted wife and mother. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table. The girls were at his mother's. That was my first clue something was wrong. The house was too quiet. Too still. Like the air itself was holding its breath. He had my iPad open in front of him. I'd been sloppy exactly once. I'd forgotten to log out of my iCloud messages, and everything had synced. Every text. Every photo. Every voice note where I told another man the things I should have been saying to my husband. Daniel looked up at me and I will never, for the rest of my life, forget the expression on his face. It wasn't anger. Anger I could have handled. Anger I could have fought against, argued with, redirected. It was something far worse. It was the look of a man watching someone he loved die right in front of him, while simultaneously realizing the person doing the killing was me. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He didn't even stand up. He just said, in the quietest voice I've ever heard from him, "How long?" I opened my mouth to lie. It was instinct by that point. My brain had already started constructing the excuse, the explanation, the deflection. But something in his eyes stopped me. Something broken and final. And I realized, standing there in my own kitchen in the home we built together, that the lying was over. Not because I'd chosen honesty. Because there was nothing left to protect with a lie. 2 months, I said. He nodded. Once. Like he'd already known and just needed to hear me say it. Then he closed the iPad, stood up, and walked past me toward the door. He didn't brush against me. He moved around me the way you move around a piece of furniture. Like I was an object in the room. Not his wife. Not the mother of his children. Just something in the way. "Daniel," I said. My voice cracked. "Please. I can explain." He stopped in the doorway. Didn't turn around. "I read the messages, Sarah. All of them. There's nothing to explain." The door closed behind him. Not a slam. Just a click. That soft, final click was the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. And I stood there, alone in a kitchen that smelled like the pot roast he'd been making for dinner, and I understood with absolute, bone-deep clarity. There is no coming back from this. The first 72 hours after Daniel walked out were a blur of panic and denial. I called him 47 times. I'm not exaggerating. I counted later when I looked at my call log. 47 calls. He answered none of them. I texted essays. Pages of apologies, explanations, promises, bargains. I said I'd go to therapy. I said I'd quit my job. I said I'd do anything, be anything, change anything. The desperation was so thick I could taste it, metallic and sour, like blood in my mouth. On the second day, I called Marcus. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought if I was going to lose everything, at least I'd have the person I lost it for. He picked up. He sounded annoyed. Not concerned. Not sympathetic. Annoyed. Like I was a customer service problem he didn't want to deal with. "My husband found out," I said. There was a pause. Then, "That's rough. Look, I think we should probably cool things off." Cool things off. Like we'd been running too hot on a business deal. Like I hadn't shattered my entire existence around this man. I started to say something, maybe beg, maybe scream, and the line went dead. He'd hung up. When I tried calling back, it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. Green bubbles. He'd blocked me. In the span of a 90-second phone call, I went from 2 men in my life to 0. Day 3. Blocked. That's how disposable I was to him. That's how disposable I'd made myself. The next week was when the real destruction started. Daniel filed for legal separation on day 5. I came home from a shift at work where I could barely function and found the papers on the kitchen counter with a sticky note that said, "Please sign these. I've taken the girls to my mother's until we figure out arrangements." His handwriting was steady. He'd already moved past the shaking stage. He'd already started building his life without me in it. That's the thing about men like Daniel. They don't beg. They don't negotiate with betrayal. They leave. Quietly, completely, and forever. I tried to fight it. I hired a lawyer I couldn't afford. I told her I wanted joint custody, I wanted the house, I wanted to work things out. She looked at me with the specific kind of pity that professionals reserve for people who are delusional about their situation. She said, "Given the evidence and the circumstances, you should prepare for a less favorable outcome." Translation: You destroyed your marriage, you did it with documentation, and a judge is going to see all of it. The custody arrangement was finalized within 3 weeks. Daniel got primary custody. I got every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. When my lawyer read the terms to me over the phone, I couldn't breathe. I physically could not draw air into my lungs. Every other weekend. My daughters, who I had carried in my body, who I had nursed and rocked and sung to sleep, were now a calendar entry. A scheduled visit. Every other weekend and Wednesdays. The first time I dropped them off after my weekend, Lily held onto the car door and didn't move. Harper was already inside. Lily just stood there, looking at me. She's 8, but in that moment she looked ancient. Like she'd aged decades in weeks. "When are you coming home, Mommy?" she asked. I started crying. Right there in the driveway of what used to be my house. I knelt down and held her and couldn't even form a sentence. Daniel came to the door. He didn't say anything cruel. He never does. He just gently said, "Lily, come inside, sweetheart." And she went. She let go of me and she went to him. Because he was the safe one. He was the constant. I was the one who left, even though technically I was the one who'd been asked to go. Harper stopped talking to me almost entirely. She'd sit in my car during our Wednesday evenings and look out the window. I'd ask her about school, about her friends, about her stuffed animals. Nothing. Just the window. A 5-year-old giving me the silent treatment. It shattered something inside me that I don't think will ever reassemble. I did that. I put that emptiness in my baby's eyes. No affair, no thrill, no midnight hotel room was worth that look. By week 3, the social fallout had begun. I don't know exactly what Daniel told people. Probably the truth. He's not a dramatic person. He wouldn't have embellished. But the truth was bad enough. Tara called me. I thought maybe she was reaching out to support me. Instead, she said, "I told you, Sarah. I told you to stop. You looked me in the eye and lied about it for months. I can't do this with you." She wasn't angry. She was tired. That's worse than anger. Anger means someone still cares enough to fight. Tired means they're already walking away. My other close friends were Daniel's friends too. Or rather, they were always more his friends, and I just got shared custody of them through the marriage. When the marriage ended, so did the friendships. Group chats went silent. Invitations stopped coming. I'd see Instagram stories of barbecues at our old house with our old friends and Daniel looking calm and stable and surrounded by people who loved him. And I'd be in my childhood bedroom, alone, scrolling through evidence of the life I'd torched. Then came the job. This part still makes me nauseous to think about. Marcus and I worked in overlapping professional circles. When things fell apart, he apparently told his version of events to colleagues first. His version painted me as the pursuer, the one who wouldn't let go, the unstable one. He protected himself by making me the villain. And because he was charming and well-connected and a man in an industry that forgives men more easily, people believed him. HR called me in on a Thursday. There had been a complaint about my conduct at the conference. The conference where it all started. Apparently Marcus had preemptively reported our encounter as something he regretted, something I had initiated aggressively. He had texts that he'd carefully curated to support his narrative. Not all the texts. Just the ones that made me look desperate. And I was desperate, in those texts. I had been the one reaching out more often. I had been the one suggesting times and places. He'd engineered the dynamic so that if it ever blew up, I'd be holding all the shrapnel. I was put on administrative leave pending investigation. 2 weeks later, I was let go. The official reason was violation of company conduct policies. The unofficial reason was that I'd become a liability, A walking scandal that made people uncomfortable in meetings. I cleaned out my desk on a Saturday when no one was there. 14 years of career progression packed into 2 cardboard boxes. Let me do the math for you. In 60 days, husband, gone. Kids, mostly gone. House, gone. Best friend, gone. Social circle, gone. Job, gone. Reputation, gone. The man I'd sacrificed all of it for, gone in 3 days. I moved back in with my parents in a town 40 minutes from where my daughters sleep at night. My father hasn't spoken more than a dozen sentences to me since I arrived. He's not a cruel man. He just doesn't know what to say to the daughter who had everything and set it on fire. My mother tries harder, but there's a carefulness in how she talks to me now. Like she's speaking to someone in a hospital. Measured words. Gentle tone. It's the same voice she used when my grandmother was dying. That's how she sees me now. As someone in the process of losing something fundamental. I don't sleep anymore. Not really. I lie in that twin bed and stare at the glow-in-the-dark stars and replay every single decision that led me here. Every text I should have deleted. Every late meeting I should have cancelled. Every time Tara tried to warn me and I laughed. Every moment I chose excitement over stability. Thrill over family. A man who saw me as entertainment over a man who saw me as his whole world. The worst part, the part that eats me alive at 3 a.m, is that Daniel would have fixed anything. If I'd come to him and said I was unhappy, he would have moved mountains. If I'd said I was bored, he would have planned something. If I'd said I felt disconnected, he would have listened. He was that kind of man. The kind who shows up. The kind who tries. And I never gave him the chance. I went behind his back because it was easier than being honest. Because honesty would have required me to admit that the problem wasn't him. It was never him. The problem was me, and the bottomless pit inside me that I tried to fill with someone else's attention instead of doing the actual work of figuring out why I felt so empty. Marcus was never going to leave his wife. I see that now with the nauseating clarity of hindsight. He never once talked about a future with me. I was a side quest. A distraction. A body in a hotel room that he could close the door on and forget about. And I let myself be that. I chose to be that. Because for a few stolen hours a week, I got to feel like the main character in some forbidden romance instead of what I actually was, a mother of 2 who was systematically dismantling her own life. I saw Daniel last Wednesday during the custody exchange. He looked good. Rested. He'd gotten a haircut. He smiled when the girls ran to his car, and it was the same smile I fell in love with 12 years ago. Warm. Real. Full of a kindness that I have done absolutely nothing to deserve. He nodded at me, the way you nod at an acquaintance, and went inside. The door closed. That same soft click. I sat in my car in that driveway for 20 minutes. The driveway where we used to draw chalk pictures with the girls. The driveway where Daniel proposed, down on one knee with a ring he'd saved for 7 months to buy. The driveway where I used to feel like the luckiest woman alive. I sat there and I cried until I couldn't see the steering wheel. Some mistakes you can apologize for. Some mistakes you can work through. And then there are the mistakes that change the molecular structure of your life so completely that the person you were before simply stops existing. You can't undo it. You can't explain it away. You can't therapy or journal or cry your way back to the life you had. It's gone. And you did it to yourself. I scroll through old photos sometimes. Christmas mornings. Beach vacations. Daniel asleep on the couch with both girls on his chest. I look at the woman in those pictures, the one smiling with the messy bun and the oversized sweatshirt, and I want to reach through the screen and shake her. I want to scream at her, "You have everything. Do you hear me? Everything. Don't you dare throw it away for a man who will block your number in 72 hours. But she can't hear me. She's already gone. And I'm what's left. If you're reading this and you're flirting with someone who isn't your partner, texting someone you shouldn't be texting, telling yourself it's harmless, that it's just a friendship, that you deserve a little excitement, let me tell you something from the other side of that lie. You don't come back from this. The thrill lasts minutes. The destruction lasts the rest of your life. I traded a man who would have died for me for one who wouldn't even stay on the phone for 2 minutes. And now I sleep in a twin bed surrounded by glow-in-the-dark stars, listening to the silence where my daughter's laughter used to be. That silence is the only thing I have left. And I earned every second of it.